In this video, we're going to break down all things Guardians of the Galaxy. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Big Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastical. And yes, we are carrying on our Affiliation series, or our Leadership series even. And this time we are tackling some of the biggest bads in Marvel Crisis Protocol right now, at least as a collective and as an affiliation. It is, of course, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, for anyone who has followed this channel for any amount of time will probably know that Guardians were really my first love in Marvel Crisis Protocol. I played them quite a bit before they got their glow up, and I played them a hell of a lot once they did. Obviously with the addition of some new characters over time, so they got the likes of Beta Ray Bill, they've obviously got the latest big bad in Affiliation in the form of Cosmic Ghost Rider, but we're going to break down each character individually within the Affiliation and take a look then at all of the tactics cards that each of those characters can potentially bring. So starting out then, let's take a look at the leader of these lovable misfits, the captain of the Milano. It is, of course, Peter Quill, aka Starlord. Now you may be asking who, but yes, he's a 3-threat leader, and that is starting out very, very strong for the Guardians. Now, why is a 3-threat leader important, or why are they particularly good? Well, it gives you so much flexibility with the other characters that you can bring. If 6 or 7 or sometimes even 8 of your threat is taken up by the leader itself, it then limits the roster of other characters that you can bring, and you can sometimes struggle to bring in some other big hitters into the Affiliation. But the thing that really brings the Guardians together, and for me really, really elevates them, is the winging it of leadership. So that is the leadership that Peter Quill brings, that Starlord brings, and it is during the power phase. Choose up to 3 allied characters. Give each chosen character a winging it token. While a character with a winging it token is attacking, defending, or dodging, it may spend a winging it token during the modified dice step to reroll up to 2 of its dice. At the end of the round, remove all winging it tokens from characters. Why is this good? Well, it's good because, first of all, it allows you to reroll 2 dice, unlike the usual 1 that you get from leaderships. But it's also good because it affects, other than rolling for pay to flips, it affects absolutely everything. So attacking, defending, and dodging. And the fact that you only need to spend the token during the modified dice step as well makes it even better, because you only need it, or you only use it, sorry, when you really, really need it. He is no slouch himself. He's got a couple of ranged attacks that are energy, so range 4 attack. 5 dice for his builder, 7 dice for his spender. He's also got hit and run, which can be quite nice. He also has plucky attitude. So when he is attacking or when he is defending, if his attack roll contains no hits, and if his defense roll contains no blocks, you can just re-roll all of your dice. Now, important to note that this does not let you re-roll any failures. Lastly, he does have flight, which is very nice with that medium move. And he is a gem bearer, and it is the power gem. Now, guys, this is going to be my first little piece of advice. Starlord is an amazing 3-threat. He is not a very good 4-threat. That power gem really does nothing for him, other than turning on either a hit and run or a full auto round 1. He really, really doesn't need it. That threat is much, much better spent elsewhere. And remembering now that with all of the gems, it's on or it's off. You can't choose from game to game. So once you've built your roster, and if you've attached it to him, it stays attached to him. And all of a sudden, going from a 3-threat leader to a 4-threat leader really, really does hurt him. And as we spoke about a lot on the channel, upping the threat level of a character Nothing else changes other than what the gem brings. And more often than not, characters' base stats are designed with their original threat in mind. So, if we take a look at that 333 as his stat line for a 4 threat, that is very, very poor. He has 6 stamina on his front, 5 stamina on his back. Once again, very, very poor for a 4 threat character. He is more than adequate at generating power for himself. He doesn't need the power gem. Please, please, please do not put the power gem on Starlord. Okay, guys, so what are we going to do and how are we going to do it? We are going to go through every single character and tactics card that the affiliation and those characters bring to the game, and we're going to be ranking them from S down to D. But we're not just going to be ranking them, we're going to be giving some reasons why. Again, as always, my personal reasons why I think they are either maybe good or bad or somewhere in between. And the S to D ranking system, S is going to be absolutely exceptional, a must take in most situations. A is going to be really, really good. Not only do they make your roster, they are probably going to be making your squad on most occasions. B tier is going to be perfectly serviceable, middle of the road, absolutely nothing wrong with them. C tier is going to be a little bit underwhelming. There's maybe a lot of competition in affiliation, typically at the same threat level. And then D is going to be do not touch, guys. Really, really not good enough right now. And there are definitely much, much better options available to us. Okay then, guys, with all of that out of the way, let's jump in and start with our first character, which is going to be Agent Venom, aka Flash Thompson, one of the newest additions to the Guardians of the Galaxy roster. He's a 4-2-3, so again, as most symbiotes do, he really suffers from that energy defense. He is a 4-threat character, he's a medium move, and he's on a small base. I nearly said medium base, but no, Venom is on a medium base. He is on on a small base, and he's a size 2 character. Clintar firepower is quite nice. It's a range 4, so again, adding into that gunline element of what Starlord already brings. Power equal to damage dealt. It also dishes out a bleed and a wild, which is never a bad thing. Incendiary. You know when you get a word in your head and then like you just can't say it. Incendiary. His grenade, range 3, strength 5, cost 1. The really nice thing about this, guys, is it does dish out that auto incinerate. It's not reliant on a trigger, which is very, very good. We've got lots of characters in this affiliation that want to be murdering things and dishing out incendiary, there we go, I think that's right, but dishing out to incinerate is very, very nice. And then lastly, he's got symbiote special forces. It's going to be a beam 3, 7 strength, cost 4, but on a wild and a hit he gets lashing tendrils. After each attack is resolved, deal 1 damage to each other enemy character within range 2 of this character. This thing can dish out a huge amount of damage if you get all of your triggers, which is really nice. Symbiote Wed Spring, we've seen it before. Pay 2, place yourself within 3, which is nice. Project Rebirth 2.0 costs 2. Costs 1 even. Remove 1 special condition from this character. And it's worth noting that this can be used as the first thing that you do. So as long as you've got a power on him, Agent Venom is effectively immune to stagger, which is very, very nice indeed. Plus you can get rid of all sorts of other conditions, and when we go into some of the tactics cards, there's some potential mayhem that can happen there. All-Star Quarterback is going to cost 3. Choose an interactive terrain feature or enemy character, both size 3 or less, and within 2. Throw it short. Can only be used once per turn. We have access to a number of different throws within Guardians, but this is one of the few characters, or maybe one of the few characters who can pick up terrain and characters. just from a superpower. So it's a guarantee. You know, it's not an attack that requires a trigger or something like that. So that's quite nice. Symbiote instincts. While this character is attacking, the defending character cannot modify its defense dice. And then lastly is wall crawler. Agent Venom is a very interesting one. There are lots of 4 threats in Affiliation for Guardians of the Galaxy. When I recently went to WTC and I took my Guardians list, I had the option of taking Flash with me, and I did opt to leave him out for a last minute change. And it's not because he's a bad character, it's because in that particular setup, I kind of knew that I would be thrown to the wolves a little bit up against other Guardians characters. And whilst he has some tech against Guardians in the mirror matchup, so with his symbiote instincts, having only 2 energy defense is very, very rough, especially going up against a Guardians player where you've got Starlord, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Rocket, Bill, Ronan, also Agent Venom himself. So yeah, for me, he's still absolutely fine, perfectly serviceable character. There are situations where you are not going to want to take him because he does struggle, I think, in that mirror matchup. But for me, I think he's probably going in that sort of B tier. Where he sits in that B tier, we'll see towards the end of the video. But perfectly serviceable, absolutely fine, not a problem at all. Let's take a look next then, and we are going to be getting on to Angela, aka Aldrich Odin's daughter. Angela and I have a love-hate relationship. She loves rolling against me. She hates rolling for me. I have not had Angela in my Guardians roster for quite some time. My big 5 threat has always been Ghost Rider. I think he does a much, much better job. However, there is definitely an argument to say that in the mirror matchup and where it is right now, that she is a very, very good character in Guardians of the Galaxy. She turns off rerolls for your opponent. So when they are attacking her, enemy characters can reroll or change attack dice when targeting this character with attacks. And that 4/4/4 stat line with 6 stamina on her front makes her very, very tanky. We talked about all of the extract plays that she can do in the past. She's very, very solid. I don't, for me, quite put her in that upper echelon of Guardians characters. Again, while she's not up against any other 5 threats, there are lots of other combinations of 2 and 3 threats that I think work maybe a little bit better than bringing Angela. So for me, with that in mind, I think she's still absolutely fine, perfectly serviceable. I think she just edges out Flash because you can definitely bring her in that mirror matchup. I think she does a very, very good job in there. Let's move on to another Asgardian, semi-Asgardian, Beta Ray Bill. Again, one of the newer members of the team, another 4 threat. Look, we've spoke about Bill and all the shenanigans that he can do on the channel many, many times. Medium base, medium move, plus he's blessed by the All-Father, so it means that he's got that turn 1 eyes on the prize, which can be really, really good. Again, especially in the mirror match, because in the mirror match, you're probably coming up against a Cosmic Ghost Rider. Bill is immune to Incinerate. So the maps that we want to be playing on, one of which is Demons Downtown, which does dish out Incinerate. He's very, very useful to have. He is also a very good anti-CGR character. Stormbreaker dishes out Stun. meaning that he's not going to get all of that extra power that he can get. This is Cosmic Ghost Rider, obviously. Summon the Storm, 6 dice, but you're getting rerolls, and guess what? On a wild, you're dishing out Shock. All of a sudden, he goes from a 6 dice builder to a 5 dice builder. God Hunter is kind of neither here nor there really for him, but he does have immeasurable strength, which is nice to rain our enemy feature of size 4 or less within 2, and it's a medium, which is pretty darn good. Corbinite cybernetics even reduce any damage he takes by 1, not to a minimum, but it does cost 1, which is obviously very nice. Honor Bound is an aggressive, which is really good. And then, as we mentioned, he's got flight, but then he's got immunity to bleed, poison, and that aforementioned incinerate. Bill is absolutely amazing as a character outside of Guardians. Give him some rerolls, and he is even better. Absolute stalwart. This is the one character that for WTC I really put my foot down and said, nope, I really, really want to have Bill. There's not really any other character in the game that does what he can do. Straight into that S tier. I am playing him most games. He never leaves my roster. It would take a lot, I think, for him to leave my roster right now. He just does so much. And if you are playing Guardians, I would highly recommend picking up the Bill box because, yeah, he is pretty darn good indeed. Let's move next then on to Drax the Destroyer, one of the original Guardians of the Galaxy characters that was released. 3 threats, so it's nice to see a mix there. We've had 4s and 5s so far. Blades is pretty darn good. Headbutt is good. Titan Killer can do some amazing damage, especially with that size 4 throw off the back end of it. I Can Take It really does help him with sustainability. He does struggle a bit with his 3-3-2 stat line. However, 6 stamina with a reduced damage by 1 does keep him alive significantly longer than what you would expect. And he can really dish out some damage. He's got rerolls on his Titan Killer. Rerolls on his blades if they're already bleeding, and he does a bleed off there. He's absolutely solid. He's a great character to put out to a side point. You really only want to be playing Drax when he is, or when you are going that little bit wider. He's not really a down the middle kind of guy, but he can do some absolute work. And in a game I played against the Guardians quite recently, he was one of the standout characters. He does struggle a little bit on the movement. He has no aggressive or charge or hit and run or anything like that, but small base, medium move, he can get to a middle point round 1, which is really all you need a character to be able to do. Just don't expect him to be able to flip things over and navigate from one side of the board to the other very, very easily. He's also got a terrain feature or enemy character thrower, so they're the 3 I believe that we've gone through now that have that. Cost 3, size 3, which can be really nice. I tend to use this more for a displacement side of things rather than throwing terrain, but you can still throw terrain around as well. I know there's not a lot of love for Drax in the community as a whole. You never see him outside of Guardians. For me, I think he is an absolutely solid character, and he has not left my roster since I started playing Guardians over 12 months ago now. He's an absolute solid B tier character, and for me, I'm going to put him above these 2 purely for the reason that he works in both a mirror match and he works anywhere else as well. Really nice to have those 3 threats in there to be able to widen up when you do need to, and it's going to be a fast scoring game. Really solid. And if you haven't tried him out, I would definitely recommend doing so because he is no slouch, to say the least. Next up then, we have got the deadliest woman in the galaxy, one of the 2 daughters of Thanos, Gamora, aka Gamora. She's a 4 threat. She had a little bit of a glow up, but this girl is all about the damage. Why is she so good at damage? Well, there's really, I would say, 3 reasons why she's very, very good at damage. First of all, 6 dice builder, which is very, very good. So from a power generation standpoint, she's going to be dishing out a huge amount of damage. Therefore, she can generate quite a lot of power. Secondly, is going to be Deadliest Woman in the Galaxy. When this character makes an attack, it may change one die result to a hit for each wild in the attack roll. So you roll a wild, and if you've got a block, you can then turn that block into a hit. So wilds, they don't count as double as some of the other characters do. So it's not quite as good because you need the dice to be able to change in the first place, but it makes her damage output very, very consistent. Thirdly, and there's actually 4 here, but thirdly is then going to be the Assassin's Leap. Cost 2, she throws herself. Yes, it's only 3 damage incoming, but it's really useful for getting her into a position where she can double tap rather than having to use one of her actions on a move, but also just dishing out some extra damage as well whilst you're there. And then one of my favourite spenders in the game, Cosmic Assassin. Range 3, only 6 dice, but we'll see why in a second. And it is going to cost 4. On a wild, you get Pierce, standard Pierce rules, but then you get Rapid Strike. After this attack is resolved, this character may make an additional Cosmic Assassin attack without paying the power cost. The additional target must target another character within range 2 of the original target character and may be any distance from this character. This additional attack does not have the Rapid Strike special rule. So somebody who you can't reach, maybe still on a back point, something like that, you can use this to get to them. It's very, very good. And again, you add that piercing with the rerolls that she's potentially getting from Starlord and everything else she's got. I think she is a very, very solid 4-threat character. She has been overshadowed of late with some of the, well, with in particular one addition, which is Bill. But I still think she's very, very good. For me, she goes to the top end of B tier. And the bar for Guardians, guys, is very high. You're going to see this. It is very, very high indeed. So, yeah, really, really good character. I still like to, she's always in my list, and I still like to play her every now and then just because I find her to be so much fun. Okay then, guys, so next, moving on to the latest big bad of Marvel Crisis Protocol. It is, of course, Frank Castle, aka Cosmic Ghost Rider. Guys, we're not going to do a huge breakdown of Cosmic Ghost Rider. We've done it many, many times before, but for me, he's really replaced Thanos as that big control piece, or control piece even, that you bring along with the Guardians, but he has the benefit of being affiliated, which is always nice, and he costs 2 threat less because you're generally taking 2 stones with Thanos as well. Hellfire Blasters is a really, really good range 4, 6 strength attack. Power Cosmic Penance Stare can just be that big attack that you need to take somebody out of the game. But the real 2 big things that he brings to Guardians of the Galaxy, first of all, is his Interstellar Hell Cycle. Spend X between 1 and 5, and then however many power you spend is the range that you can place. So you can spend 5 power and place him within range 5 of himself. This guy can just get about the board. And then the last one, or the second one even, is Chains of Sitarak. Choose an enemy character within range... Sorry, choose a character within range 3, push it towards this character short. The chosen character gains the Incinerate special condition. You can use it as many times in an activation or within a turn, but every character can only be affected once. It's worth pointing out, guys, this works on your own characters. So let's go back. Let's take a look. We've got Bill. Bill is immune to Incinerate. For 2 power, we can pull Bill back onto a point further up the board, get him into a position where he can make 2 attacks rather than 1 if he's been displaced. So remember that this does not just work on your own character, sorry, on your opponent, it will work on your own characters as well, but it will obviously give out that incinerate. But there's Guardians have got their ways and means of being able to get rid of that. Why is his damage output so good? Well, the reason why is ready to roll. At the start of the first power phase, this character gains a psychosis token. While it has a psychosis token, it counts failure results in its attack, defense, and dodge roll successes. So really, when you're making an attack, there are only two sides of the dice, or two sides of the dice that are not results for you, and you can re-roll them ones with your winging it tokens, which is quite nice. But he does have the downside that while ever he has a psychosis token, he cannot contest, interact with objectives, which does mean you need to balance him out a little bit, because you don't want to let your opponent get too far away with the VP game where you just can't catch them up. But really, Cosmic Ghost Rider now is the absolute heart of most Guardians of the Galaxy rosters. He is amazing out of Affiliation. He's even better in Affiliation. If there was an S plus tier, he would probably be going up there. There is an argument to say that right now he's a little bit broken, but only a little bit. He's not quite as egregious as the likes of the old Thanos, or even the old Malekith, the original version of Malekith. But he's still extremely good, and he's definitely a character that if you know you're coming up against, you want to make sure you've got some tech against him. And the nice thing is that Guardians actually have quite a lot of good tech against Cosmic Ghost Rider. We've already mentioned how Bill is really good. We've already mentioned how Angela is really good as well. So moving on then, guys, let's take a look at one half of the deadly duo, Groot, aka I Am Groot. Another 3-threat character. He's going to be a 4/2/3. And again, because of that 2 energy defense, he is a little bit susceptible in a Guardians mirror match, but he does bring both some great cards with him, but he can also do some really good things as well. 7 stamina on his front, which is not to be sniffed at. His strike is range 3, which is really nice. I Am Groot, guaranteed medium throw, guaranteed stagger on an 8 dice physical attack. And then the one thing that keeps him alive longer than he probably should do is that living plant. Cost 2 power, remove 3 damage. Even with some of the, gun lines that we've got in Guardians where they're rolling 4, 5, 6 dice, to get those 7 results through to one-shot Groot, your opponent's going to have to be very, very lucky to do that. And for 2 power, he can get rid of 3 of that damage, just increasing his survivability that much more. For me, he is a very, very good member of the Guardians, and he's going to be, guys, our first entry into A tier. That's not only because of what he's got on his card, but also the tactics cards that he has access to as well, which are very, very good indeed. Okay, next up then, let's talk about Nebula, the other daughter of Thanos in this list. I really, really like Nebula. I think she's particularly good in a mirror match as well. She kills things real quick. Shock Sword Assault, which for some reason does stun, and her strike does a shock, which I'll never understand why, but stun and shock, the big 2 conditions that we want to get out onto Cosmic Ghost Rider as early as possible. She's also immune to stun as well, which is really, really nice. She's got her own inbuilt rerolls with defense, and she kind of has a pseudo healing factor where at the beginning of the character's activation, she gets to remove 1 damage, which is also really, really nice. She's a 2-threat, which is pretty darn good, but she does suffer from the fact that she cannot score VPs. And this is one of the things where I think she's, in a lot of people's eyes, maybe lost a little bit of viability, because generally now most Guardians players are running Cosmic Ghost Rider. If you run Cosmic Ghost Rider and Nebula, you have 2 characters that at least starting out can't score VPs. So maybe you only end up with 2 or 3 at the most characters on the board who are going to be able to score VPs round 1. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't use her. I used her in 2 of my games at WTC when she was alongside Cosmic Ghost Rider to very, very good effect. That long move and that range 3 attack, especially when you're getting full rerolls because she's an assassin when somebody's holding or contesting an objective. That 6 dice attack is very, very good indeed. She dishes out a huge amount of damage. I really, really like her. I still think she is super, super viable. She would be higher up in this list if it wasn't for another character that is also a 2-threat that we'll get onto in a moment, who probably also takes some of the limelight away from her. For me, she's going to go into that B tier. Probably just, let's have a little think, probably just in between Angela and Drax. There's an argument to say she could be here as well, but she's very, very good and allows Guardians to actually go very, very wide as well if they need to, even with that big 6-threat big hitter in the form of Cosmic Ghost Rider. Okay, next up then, we just sort of alluded to him, but let's talk about everyone's favourite trash panda. It is, of course, Rocket Raccoon. 2 threats, 2 range 5 attacks, back point, protected by Groot. He's got booby traps. He can't take damage from collisions. He always benefits from cover. Now, it's important to note that always benefiting from cover doesn't mean that you always benefit from cover. Situations where it does work, any normal attacks that are going into him, whether they're both inside or indeed outside of range 2. So even somebody within range 2, you would still benefit from cover. Where it doesn't work is where somebody turns off your dice modification. So for example, Angela turns off Rocket's cover because you can't modify your dice. Is it Angela that does it? Whichever way around it is, but somebody who stops you modifying your defense dice. I think Angela does. I can't remember off the top of my head. Let's have a quick look. Let's just make sure I've not got that wrong. Angela, enemy cannot reroll or change attack dice. So that she's the other way around. I think it's Venom who turns them off, but you get what I mean. Somebody who stops you rerolling or modifying your dice means that you can't use cover. Rocket's really good. There's absolutely no doubt about that. For me, and this may surprise a few people, he is going to go right here in between Bill and in between Cosmic Ghost Rider. Yes, I think for his threat, Rocket is a better character in Guardians than Bill. He's a great character outside of Guardians. He's even better inside of Guardians. He's super, super good. Dishes out so much damage and access to an absolutely crazy tactics card that essentially allows him to make up to 5 attacks in a single activation, which at a minimum is going to be 25 dice that you are rolling, potentially with rerolls and everything else. So, yeah, really, really good. And survivability because of Groot. Because of actually what he's got in small stature and in nimble, means that he actually does survive quite a bit more than what people would initially give him credit for. A little spoiler that we had it before, but we're finishing out the list with Ronan the Accuser. I love Ronan. I absolutely love Ronan. For me, he is probably the second best 4-threat character in Guardians of the Galaxy right now. And the reason for that is a couple of reasons, actually. First of all, 3/4/4 is not to be sniffed at from a defensive tech standpoint. 7 stamina on his front, 7 stamina on his back, giving him 14 in total, which is just utterly crazy. Again, he's a gem bearer, but we ignore that. We don't play him as a 5-threat. But what's he got? Strike on a range 2 5 dice builder. A throw on a strike, which is a range 2 5 dice builder. Power equal to damage dealt, and it's a size 4 or less. Throw the character away, which is good. So it brings some more control. Universal weapon. So this is a builder that doesn't generate power or a spender that costs nothing. You pick which one you want. But it's a range 4, strength 5 attack, cost 0, push on a wild, size 4 or less, and it will do shock if you deal damage, which is really, really nice. But his big one, guys, is Kree Justice. Range 2 costs 8. Sorry, range 2, strength 8, costs 4. After this attack is resolved, if damage was dealt, the target character gains the stun and stagger special conditions. And then explosive, everybody else takes 1 damage that's within range 2. He's also got some other really nice things that for me, he may be one of the best anti-CGR characters in the game right now. And why is that? Well, first of all, is Judgment. excuse me. So Judgment costs 2. When this character or an allied character within range 3 of this character is damaged by an enemy effect, after the effect is resolved, you may use this superpower. The character that caused the effect gains the Judgment special condition. Judgment may be the condition that we see the least in the game. What does it do for those that don't know? Well, you do not gain power for damage taken by enemy attacks. Why is that good? Well, the problem with Cosmic Ghost Rider is you take him out, you maybe daze him, but he's got usually 10 power that he comes back with. And with 10 power, he can just utterly obliterate people on the board. He's got enough power for a big spender. He can pull 2 people in, or he can place himself. He is utterly, utterly egregious when he has got power on him. However, with Judgment, you do not give him that power when you're taking him out. So that's number 1 reason. Number 2 is the Accuser. If an enemy effect would cause this character to be dazed or KO'd, it may use this superpower. It is not dazed or KO'd. After the effect is resolved, this character advances short, makes 1 attack targeting the enemy character that caused the effect, and is then dazed or KO'd. So let me take you through what happens in the process in this. Let's say Cosmic Ghost Rider attacks Ronan, does 7 damage to him. Let's say that Ronan was holding a hammer, for example. So he does 2 damage to it. So he does 7 damage to him. So Ronan gains 7 power. He can then spend 2 power to do a Judgment, because there is a window of opportunity to use Judgment before you actually complete this. So you put Judgment on CGR. You then spend 4 power for a Kree Justice, because it doesn't specify what attack you use. So you get to clap him back with a minimum of 8 dice, potentially more if you've got a hammer or something else like a big dumb hero token. With 9 dice, any damage that you put on him, he is not getting power for. Worst case scenario, you do nothing, but on an 8 dice attack, you'd hope that you'd do something. But you do a stun and stagger, which is really good. And you get the explosive off potentially. But let's say you take him out, let's say you one-shot him, which is not unlike, not out of the realms of possibility. You've then dazed a Cosmic Ghost Rider who has got no power for it. So when he comes back, if he doesn't get that psychosis token, his damage output and his survivability decreases significantly. Lastly, the reason why I love Ronan is the card Sacrifice. In a game that I played recently, actually at WTC as well, it was actually one of the reasons why I won the game. Their Cosmic Ghost Rider was going to attack my Bill with his big attack, so his big Mystic attack. Bill's only got 3 Mystic. I sacrificed, I put it into Ronan, and then we let Ronan get smashed up. So Ronan took the hit, then smashed Cosmic Ghost Rider back, and all was good in the world. I've also used, not in the sacrifice example because you can't do this, but I've also used Winging It tokens to make sure that Ronan goes down so that he can clap Cosmic Ghost Rider back, meaning that turn ends immediately, meaning that he was either dazed or KO'd at the time. I can't remember which it was. This one may surprise a lot of people, but for me, guys, Ronan does absolute work for me in my Guardians roster, and he is going A tier. Now, why Guardians of the Galaxy is so good? Well, look at this tier list, guys. They have 11 characters, including Starlord. Obviously, only 10 of which we are ranking because Starlord is an auto-include. And not one of them is at least in my opinion, is an unviable character. When Agent Venom is the worst in my tier list, you know that you have got some really, really good characters in your affiliation. There is not a single character in Guardians of the Galaxy who you cannot make work. And this is the second reason why they are just so good. And then also look at the mix of threat levels. We've got 2/2 threats. So I believe I'm still right in saying this, the only affiliation in the game that has access to 2 affiliated 2 threats. We've got 3, including Ghost Rider, 3 threats. We've got access to 4 very, very different 4-threat characters who all do different things in the game. You know, you've got the pure damage one like Gamora. You've got your, strategy extract players in the form of Beta Ray Bill, who also does a whole bunch of other stuff as well. And then your more nuanced pieces like Ronan and like Agent Venom. You then got a 5-threat in Affiliation, who, long move, medium base, also plays really well into the extract player game. And then to top it off, you've got 6-threat Cosmic Ghost Rider. You can run a pure Guardians roster without taking a single splash character and be in a very, very good position. A very, very good position indeed. The other reason why they are so good is obviously the tactics cards that they are bringing with them as well. Now, the tactics cards are a little bit more hit and miss, but we're going to go through. We're going to add these into the same tier list. We're not going to move them above the characters. We're sort of saying that the tier list starts again to the right hand side of Bill, Ronan, and obviously Agent Venom there. But let's start off and let's take a look at the first one. We're doing these in alphabetical order. But first one is Crew of the Milano. Guardians of the Galaxy active. Any number of Guardians of the Galaxy characters may spend 1 power to play this card. Each character that spent power removes all special conditions and cannot suffer special conditions this round. So you've done all the hard work. You've got a stagger. You've got a stun. You've got a shock. You've got a judgment onto Cosmic Ghost Rider. But for whatever reason, he stayed alive. And you think, well, that's fine. He's lost an activation. He isn't gaining any power. And I'm probably going to take him out this round. Well, he spends 1 power and he removes every single one of those special conditions. And every single character can use it. As long as they're a Guardians character, every single character can use it. It is an absolutely amazing tactics card. For me, this right now is one of... It's not stapled on it. It's not always guaranteed to be in my 5, but it is often there. So because of that, it's going to go into A tier. I don't know why it's doing this crazy thing. Let me just sort this out a little bit. So there we go. It goes into A tier. Really, really good card. It's definitely a card that you should be including in your Guardians roster. Next up then is a non-Guardian specific card, but one that works with Gamora and Nebula. So you do need both characters in your list to make this card work. It's Daughters of Thanos. When either an allied Gamora or an allied Nebula makes an attack action, after the attack is resolved, both characters may spend 2 power to play this card. The character, Gamora or Nebula, that did not make the initial attack may make an attack targeting the same character. And again, it can be any attack, so you can spend power and make the attack as well. So, you could do it where if it's Gamora's spender, she then gets the second attack as well. This card costs 4 power in total. And in particular with those 2 characters, generally when you get power, you're spending that power. They have good power generation. Nebula has access to 2 builders effectively. Gamora has a really good builder, but they've got things they want to spend power on. And this tactics card is generally not one of them. because of that, guys, it just costs too much. This was originally in the erratas, and it went from costing 2 per character to 1 per character, which would have made it far, far more viable. But because of the cost, and also because of the competition that's in there for tactics cards for Guardians, for me, guys, it goes to D tier. It's just not good enough. It's not worth bringing. There are far, far better cards that you want to bring along with you. And speaking of better cards that you want to bring with you, Deadly Duo. I alluded earlier that Rocket can make up to 5 attacks in a single activation, and Deadly Duo is the card that allows him to do that. During Rocket Raccoon's activation, if he is within 2 of an allied Groot, both characters may spend 2 power to play this card. Rocket Raccoon may immediately perform up to 3 plasma rifle attacks. Each attack must target a different enemy character. So you can't, triple tap the same character. It's got to be a different character for each one. But you make sure that you can do that. This card is very, very good. On certain maps, it's better than others. So on your E maps, on your C maps, really, really good. On your D maps and on your B maps, less so. So it really is a little bit more map dependent. I don't find myself taking this card every single matchup, and really it's because of the maps. But what I'm finding more and more is that when we're going into those wider maps, the Ds, the Bs, actually Rocket and Groot are appearing less and less, and I'm leaning more towards taking maybe either a single 5 threat or another combination to make up the threat level. But when it is used, it is very, very good indeed. Can cause utter destruction to your opponent. So for me, guys, even with the fact that you're not going to be taking it every single go, it still very much goes into that A tier, but it does go behind Crew of the Milano for that reason. So next up then, guys, is going to be Foreign Assignment. Another Guardians of the Galaxy card, but this is going to be character specific for the character that plays it in the form of Agent Venom, then character specific to who he's going to interact with. And basically, depending on who's on the board, you spend 2 power for each one of these steps. You have to spend it beforehand. So a maximum of 8 power that you spend on this card, because whilst there's 5 options on there, you can't field all 6 of those characters at once because it equates to 21 threat in total. But he's got throws in there. He's got attacks in there that he can do. Remembering that any of the attacks, he gets to turn off the opponent's defense dice as well. So it's pretty darn good in terms of all of the things that he can do. And if in a utopia where you got 4 of them off, it would be absolutely amazing. The reality is that, well, board state will normally dictate that you don't. And you're typically only going to get 1, maybe 2 of these off at the most. And I just find this card to be a little bit inconsistent with what it does and what it delivers. Because board state changes all the time, and you don't really want to be wasting a movement to get him to where he needs to be to then trigger the things that you want. Maybe it's just me. I've never really gelled with this card that much. So for me, I still think it's one that you can use, but it does go into that C tier, unfortunately, which is a shame because I really, really like it. I think it's such a good, fun card. But yeah, alas, it is not to be. Okay then, guys, so next up is another Guardians of the Galaxy card. Yes, I know all you Defenders characters are sat there with your head in your hands, crying yourselves to sleep at night because of how many cards the Guardians have got access to and how few you do. Galaxy's Greatest, it's active. It's going to let you choose up to 4 injured allied Guardians of the Galaxy characters. Now, just to specify, that is not they've taken a damage. That is that they are on the injured side of their card, so they've been flipped. They may spend 2 power each to play this card. Characters that spend power get to gain a Big Dumb Hero token. And if you've got a Big Dumb Hero token, you add 1 dice to your attack and 1 dice to your defense rolls until the end of the game. It's just crazy. Guys, it takes Starlord from being a 3/3/3 with a 5 dice builder to a 4/4/4 and a range 4 6 dice builder. All of a sudden, Cosmic Ghost Rider's rolling 5 defense dice and 7 dice on his attack. It's really crazy. I always try and position it so that I'm going to be able to use it and have at least 2 characters who are going to gain the benefit from it. But it's really, really good, guys. The fact that it just lasts until the end of time, all those extra dice on attacks, all those extra dice on defense, it's really, really good. And because all of that, it's a card that I never leave home without. It's the only card in this list that I play in every single game. So because of that, guys, it goes straight up into S tier and the top of S tier as well. It is the top of S tier. Next up, we have got a card for Cosmic Ghost Rider. And you'd be glad to know, guys, that he's not such an egregious character that comes with an amazing tactics card, at least not in my opinion. It's time travel, don't ask. Unaffiliated reactive. During the cleanup phase, after VPs have been scored, an allied Cosmic Ghost Rider that is not contesting an objective token may spend 5 power to play this card. Cosmic Ghost Rider may advance medium toward an objective token you are not securing. If you would now secure the objective token, you immediately score 1 VP. Then, if Cosmic Ghost Rider has a Psychosis token, he may remove it. The reason I don't like this card is it costs 5 power. That's the big reason. It costs 5 power. Generally, I want that power on Cosmic Ghost Rider. Really, right up until the last 2 rounds, depending on how the game's going, where I may start to want him to score VPs. But I want to keep that Psychosis token on for as long as possible. So if I've got 5 power, I want to keep that power, and I want to make sure that I come back next turn, next round with that Psychosis token on. And for 1 VP, I just don't think it is worth losing what the Psychosis token does for him. I can see some niche scenarios where you could play it, but for me, it's just not quite good enough. And because of that, it's going to go into C tier. Right below, what was this one here? Right below, probably below Foreign Assignment, to be honest with you. I think it probably does go below that. Okay, guys, next up we have got one of my favourite cards, not just in Guardians, but in the entire game. It is, of course, Lovable Misfits. Every character spends a power, they roll a dice, and all hell ensues, from dishing out stuns to everyone, to doing damage to everyone, to making attacks, getting an advance. It can be absolute feast or famine. I have had this card win me games. I have rolled 4 dice with this card before and gotten 4 skulls. And yes, that did just happen to me at the WTC in my second round game. Fortunately, I was still able to win out. And that's one of the reasons why I know a lot of the top tier players in Guardians don't take this card. But guys, I really like it. Like, I just really like this card. It's so thematic. I will admit that I haven't been taking it with me as often as I have previously. It used to be in my list all of the time, without doubt, without a shadow of the doubt. But as we've got access to some new ones, like being able to dish out the big dumb hero tokens, that sort of thing, it has dropped down the pecking order ever so slightly. But yeah, I still think it's really fun. If you're playing Guardians, you should definitely try it out. I'm probably putting it a little bit higher here in B tier than what it should be. But I just love it so much, guys. It deserves a B tier. Go play it. It's just a really fun card. Okay then, guys, on to our penultimate card, and it is Scuttlebutt on me. This is going to be a card for Bill, but it can also be used with Scourge the Executioner. So when an allied Bill or Scourge makes an attack during their activation, after the attack is resolved, the attacking character may spend any amount of power to play this card. The attacking character immediately performs the attack listed above, targeting the original target character. So this is one of those cards that gives you an attack, but it doesn't use one of your attack actions, which is quite nice. It is called Tech Support. It's going to be range 5, and it's going to be 2 dice, 2 strength, and a 0 cost. This attack ignores line of sight, and the defending character does not benefit from cover. Add attack dice to the attack roll equal to the amount of power spent to play this card. So that's why you can spend any amount of power. So at most, it's going to be a 12 dice attack. Its minimum is going to be a 3 dice attack. After this attack is resolved, if it dealt damage, the character that played this card may throw the target character short. Omnidirectional throw on a range 5 attack is pretty good. The problem is that Bill has a lot of things he wants to spend power on. And let's say 5 power on this card is not one of them. He would rather be using his God Hunter. He would rather be using his Stormbreaker or whatever it's called. He would rather be doing his throws. He always wants power on him to stop some extra damage coming through. And because of that, I just can't really place this card that high. I think it's probably going down here somewhere. Maybe in between here. Maybe even, does it go into D tier? I think you can. Do you know what, guys? I think and then we have to remember this is in a Guardians list where there are so many other tactics cards to choose from that are really, really good. I actually think it is a D tier. It's going to go slightly above Daughters of Thanos, but it is a D tier. I cannot recommend that you use this card whilst playing Guardians of the Galaxy. There are just far better cards out there. I often struggle as to which restricted cards I'm going to take in Guardians because they've got access to so many, and I'll often find myself not taking a restricted card because of that. So, yeah, it goes in D tier. I've said it. There we go. And lastly, we have We Are Groot. It's an active. Groot may spend 3 power to play this card. Groot and allied characters within 4 of him remove 2 damage. Things to note about this card. On the right map, this can do 10, 12 heals in total. So remove like 12 damage, potentially. You know, sometimes it's less. You know, it can be 5, it can be 8. But the fact is range 4 just gets so many characters with it. Also, healing is at a real premium. Since we lost Medpack, we now only have Patch Up. So healing is at a super premium. And also, this card can be used outside of Groot's activation. So it does not need to be used during Groot's activation, which just makes it the potential to use it is just so much higher than it would have been if it would only be during his activation. So you don't have to worry about the timing of it or anything like that. If I take Groot, I am taking this card without a shadow of a doubt. For me, it's stapled to him. It's so good. So because of that, guys, it is going to go into that A tier. I'm going to say probably just below Deadly Duo. Oh, not there, just there below Deadly Duo. But still, if I'm taking Rocket and Groot, these cards are coming every single time. And there we go, guys. That is our breakdown of all things Guardians of the Galaxy. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Am I completely mad? You know, we didn't place a single character lower than B tier in Guardians, and I think that's fair. The characters are, you know, the characters they've got are very, very good. Are there any contentious ones on there? I know there may be a few people that weren't happy with how low down maybe Angela and Agent Venom was. And I know there are probably some people who were very surprised with how high up Ronan is, for example. But I've played a hell of a lot of Guardians games. I think it's a fair statement to say I don't know anyone who has played more than me. Now, that doesn't mean that I am the fountain of all knowledge and that I am in any way, shape or form the best Guardians player in the world out there. I am most definitely not claiming that. But I have played each one of these cards in my roster probably a minimum of cards and characters, a minimum of 25 times to either keep them in or take them out over the past 12 to 18 months. So I feel like I've got a good handle on what does and doesn't work. And this is just my opinion based on where the game is right now. But like I said, let me know in the comment section below. What do you think? Which character did I do a disservice to for you guys? And we have to remember that it's not just the character in the game. It is the character under the leadership of Starlord. Guys, I want to give a huge big shout out to our Patreons. They really, really do help us continue with the just general running of the channel, help us make these videos. And if you do want to support us on Patreon, you can do so for as little as £1 a month. There'll be a link down in the description below. And if you don't want to do that, you can still support the channel. You can support us by liking the video. You can leave a comment. You can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and you can even share the content as well, so that other people can see the amazing work that we're doing over here at the Rich Mid Gaming channel. I jest, of course, about the amazing work, not about the share. Guys, if you want to go check out Leodis War Games, Leodis Games even, the sponsor of the channel, there's a link down in the description below, where if you spend £50, you get a £5 voucher back. We're also doing a whole bunch of Shatterpoint and Marvel Crisis Protocol events there, so go check that out as well. And as always, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.